Anyways, good evening, good morning, good afternoon from wherever you are in the world, and welcome to today's episode of Everything Outside Code. Today's episode is a fantastic episode because we're going to be speaking to a I would say terrific software engineer, 1000x engineer, as I like to describe him. We are going to be talking about everything outside code, mostly about the business of building a SaaS product, but also from a technical perspective, right? What does that mean and how do you balance that? I'm William, and I'm going to be your host today, and I'm going to introduce Anthony Alaribe, who will be speaking to today.
Man, thanks for having me, William. I mean, I'm pretty excited about our chat today, so let's see how it goes.
Yeah, that's great. And for anyone listening, if you have any questions, you could just put them in the comments. We will be taking them and answering them. And yeah, we'll try to get to all the comments over the next 30, 40 minutes. So I think we can just get right down to business. So speaking of business, Anthony, what are you working on? Or rather, I would say, let's take it back a bit. What's the first business you worked on?
The first business I worked on,
Yeah, the first business you ran or you built or you started with.
okay, huh. Now I'm trying to decide how far back to go, but my journey through programming was actually just because I wanted to build things. I think I was very inspired by the Zuckerberg, as a teenager, and I was like, yeah, I want to be Zuckerberg at the time. So I kept trying to build these things. Obviously, I had no knowledge of business, and they ended up being projects that helped me hone my skills as an engineer. But I got into tech to build, and the first thing I built was just like Zuckerberg, was a social network for my university in my hundred level in university. So
Did you
yeah,
screw anyone over when building that, like Zuckerberg?
no, thankfully not. Thankfully not.
Okay.
But it was fun anyway. I think at the time,
Yeah.
I, I not a lot of users other than my classmates and people like that, but I was able to convince some of our lecturers to put past questions and things like that on the platform.
Yeah.
It was fun
So you
anyway.
got customers. So you got customers from it.
Maybe let's
Like
call it
people paid.
users. I don't think anyone paid anything. So let's
Okay.
call it users.
Okay. That's cool. So let's bring it a bit forward to the future now. What are you working on at the moment?
So at the moment, um, I guess 15, 14 years since that first. Oh, when was it? Yeah, let's say 10 years since that first project. Now I'm working on something for developers, no longer for university students. And
Yeah.
I run a platform called APIToolkit, which
Okay.
is it's a platform that is heavily inspired by my time in the industry, because I
Hmm.
realized there's just way too many problems that developers have to solve, which could which are better off automated. Let's put it that way. And
Oh,
there's this statistics from there's I don't remember the name of the consortium, but some software engineering consortium, and they realized that developers spend less than 20% of their time coding, like programming, because the
mhm.
remaining 70% of the time is spent on things like documenting, testing, and a lot of other things. And these are the things developers don't enjoy very much, but they are very, very important. But because
Yeah.
developers don't enjoy doing it as much, they cut corners, and
Yeah.
so they do these things poorly.
Yeah.
And that means a lot of the systems that we get to use in the industry are just really bad. They're just
Yeah.
poor performance. A lot of things go bad, a lot of things go wrong, etc. So that made me start thinking about tools
Yeah.
in this. But API specifically is inspired by my last job, where I was responsible for losing 2 million euros worth of orders, and that made me solve this specific problem we're solving at APIToolkit.
Wow. Wait, so you're responsible for losing 2 million? Is that like a fancy way of saying you lost 2 million euros?
We have to make it sound nicer, no? but yeah,
that's an interesting one. So you lost 2 million euros and then you started your own company to fix that for other companies.
exactly. Like I used to work for this company, Delivery Hero, and it's a very big company. So at the end of the day, 2 million euros is, it's not so much money from their perspective. But
Yeah.
as a Nigerian guy, who has never held 2 million euros in my hands, it was pretty terrifying.
Change your life and the life of everyone around you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 2 million euros is large. It's good money by any standards in a lot of places. But yeah, that's a wonderful experience. And that explains inspiration then. That's a very strong, inspiration and backing, But then this space, observability, I've had a look at APIToolkit. I think it's fantastic. Great work on like the landing page. I've been following it from the previous one to this one. So we we with observability and monitoring, right? There's, there are huge players there, right? There are folks building, great stuff within that space. Why did you choose to, go head first in? Is there something you saw? I mean, you don't have to tell us now if it's like business secrets, but what drove you into that same SaaS space as an engineer as well?
I think I'm very happy sharing everything, because to be honest, I think more companies should be solving these kinds of problems. And even at Delivery Hero, we had Datadog, which is they're a very big player. There are lots of observability platforms out there, and they do an amazing job. And APIToolkit doesn't replace every observability platform out there. So the space I found is that these observability platforms, they want you to send logs to them, or maybe metrics and traces. But by nature of it being logs, it meant someone had to go into the code and write a log. Okay, log this particular information. And in practice, a lot of the things that go wrong, we usually did not know that it would go wrong. So we didn't even have the foresight to put a log for them. What APIToolkit does is that it actually says, okay, the logs, the traces, they are good. We still need them, but let's look at the requests that are coming in and out of your company that your customers are making. Let's look at those requests, learn them, run them through some learning algorithms, learn them. So if you are a food delivery platform, we can see that, okay, your customers would usually make a request to authenticate. In this request, they send their username and password. Then after authenticating, they ask for the list of food. That's good.
Yeah. Everything
So,
is good.
so they asked for the list of food that your platform is selling. And this list could include the name of the meal, the price, etc. So by learning this, if something changes, computers can spot pattern. If all of a sudden you're no longer sending the name, then a computer will be able to see the pattern and say, yeah, there's usually a name in here. Why is there no name anymore?
Yeah.
Or maybe you're sending the name, but the name is usually like, I don't know, text, a first name space, a last name. And all of a sudden, we're just sending numbers. There's still a name field, but it's numbers. So any machine that has learned what your customers usually do would know that something is wrong. And none of the observability platforms on the market are able to even look into the data that your customers are doing, talk less of being able to derive insights from customer behavior. and that's really what differentiates
Ah,
APIToolkit.
so this is sort of like proactive anomaly detection, right?
Exactly.
Ha, that's an interesting spot. That's an interesting spot to be in, definitely. Are you afraid Datadog or like some other company would come up with a similar solution, especially with the rise of AI? You know?
I mean, the problem with being in the market that has these big guys is there's always that risk. So the moat that we have as a company is that we are young and we are agile. So hopefully we can, out innovate these huge behemoths, Datadog
Yeah.
and the rest.
Yeah, definitely. The speed of innovation and iteration is definitely, in your favor. So I mean, I understand the motivation going from, you got into software development so you could build products, you could build a business, right? And now you're doing it. How do you juggle engineering? Because I see all that Haskell code, UI, UA. I'm seeing like engineering I haven't seen. I feel like an imposter sometimes when I look at like your Twitter, right? So I see all that stuff, but I know you're doing all that engineering. I think last week you were building like your own custom markdown parser or
Oh
something.
yeah.
I'm who does that? So you do all that. How do you do that and also like run the business and also like build the business and acquire users? Could you walk us through that? Also, the mental shift that's involved with you know thinking in within like an engineering context and then switching to hey, I need to get users, I need to get money and not be homeless. How do you do that?
Yeah. To be honest, I think I'm an engineer first, and there's some downsides to being an engineer first. The downside is that engineering ends up being my happy place.
Yeah.
Business is something I'm having to learn, but
Mhm.
it's always easier to just say, okay, things have not been going well on the business side. Maybe I should
Yeah.
spend some time just coding something as a way of just
Yeah.
relaxing a little bit.
Okay.
Um, so I do enjoy building and and I share some of the things I do.
Yeah, do you
Um,
get help? Do you get help from like maybe do you have a co-founder or people like partners that take on the business? Because also running like a business, it's a lot that has to go into that. So do you get help from people?
I really underestimated it when I started, right? So I've been doing
Okay.
this for 2 years now. And I think when I started, I was like, solo founder, solopreneur. I learned very quickly that it's very important to have help. So I started getting that help through outsourcing and hiring. So I have
Mhm.
a small team now. We've come a long way. But at some point, I also realized that that is not enough. You can
Yeah.
hire, but there is just a different level of responsibility that people who are there for a salary would put into the business compared to someone who has a bit more skin in the game. And
Yeah.
so recently, I think it's less than or maybe a month ago, I just finally got the co-founder.
Wow, that's nice. Congrats, man.
Yeah, so
So
uh,
does your co-founder code as well? Or
no,
they're more on like the business side of things?
no, she's a marketing expert, so she's her entire career has been in marketing,
Oh,
and
that's
it's
that's
kind of a
great.
challenge. It's kind of a challenge for her now, I think, because this is a very engineering heavy company,
Yeah.
and she's coming from the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah. That's cool. So now that we've switched to like marketing, aside the fact that you have like a co-founder now that's on the marketing, you've been the founder, you've been selling. How has marketing been for you? What have you done? What has worked? And what have you flunked?
Whew, I didn't know this thing would be this hard when I started. Maybe I wouldn't have started if I knew it would be this hard. So,
Yeah.
well, when I started, I think I had a wait list. Uh,
Okay.
I We had a wait list for some time. We had some people sign up on the wait list. And then I went on the Golang Changelog podcast 2 years ago, which was amazing because so many people joined this wait list. So
Okay.
many people. So I was like, this problem I'm solving. If people are joining the wait list this much, then it's a real problem. It's validated.
Yeah.
And then I made the mistake of not launching for another 6 months. So 6 months later, when we had, actually had built something and felt like I had something, I start to reach out to these people on the wait list and crickets.
The silence.
The silence was deafening. It was deafening. Even before the people on the wait list, I think I also reached out to quite a few people on Twitter, telling them, "Oh, I have this thing. I just some questions," because I was reading this book. Um, Lean Startup, but there's another Running Lean. So I was reading this book, Running
Ah,
Lean, and it's a very
okay.
lovely book. So the book had these questions on, or this guidance on how to do customer interviews, as well as the kind of questions you could ask. So I used that as a template. It was just very helpful. I had a lot of calls with people I met on Twitter and some on LinkedIn where I would just code message. So that helped shape APIToolkit product. I just should have, in hindsight, I really should have just launched faster after talking to these people,
Yeah.
because 6 months later, the enthusiasm or the interest is just not the same. A lot of people
Yeah.
have even forgotten why they why they joined the waitlist or what they spoke to you about.
Yeah.
So it felt like starting afresh after
Yeah.
launch.
It's interesting because building something great takes time,
Yeah.
right? Now you're stuck in this spot where there are a lot of people interested in what you've sold them and the value and the problem you want to solve. But solving it takes time. So how do you deliver? I mean, I hear there's a concept of like MVPs, MLPs, version one, building lean.
Mhm.
I start to think, is there a thing like lean? Because ultimately, your customers decide what is an MVP. That's what I've seen so far.
Thank you.
You have an idea of this is an MVP. Now, your customers, they tell you what they think is an MVP. Build something, you think this is an MVP, they think, no, this is shit. They're not going to use it. They're not going to pay for it even. Right.
Right.
So I've personally, I'm even like currently like in that spot where I'm like, is this an MVP? Or should I like, how do I get to that MVP that someone can pay for?
Mhm. I think you defined it nicely that your customers are the ones who decide what the MVP is. I think
Yeah.
someone coined a different term, minimum lovable product.
Yeah. An MLP.
ML.
People use that instead of like MVPs. But then again, what requirements make an MLP?
Yeah.
I guess that's a discussion for a different day. I mean, I saw this tweet. I think it was yesterday or today. Someone said, "How do you know? Uh, like, how do you know you've built it? Was it how do you know you've built a great product? It's like if you've built something and no one's using it, then it's shit. It's not a great product. If you've built something and you are the only one using it, then yeah, it's 90% shit. if you if you build something and you have external users, then you're 50% there, right?
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean, I agree with the person, but I also disagree. It's really tricky.
yeah.
It's really tricky because it could also just be that you don't know how to find the people who this
Mhm.
product is for. And I also
Yeah.
had that. I had that. I mean, it's been
Yeah.
a crazy business roller coaster for me in a lot of ways, because
Mhm.
I started to realize that it's not just like selling. There's a lot more to selling. You have to sell
Yeah.
to the right people as well. For example, when
Mhm.
I was having customer interviews, I was talking to engineers who were not
Mhm.
decision makers, and I didn't know
Ah,
that that I didn't know that you needed to talk to the
yeah.
decision makers.
Okay.
Because for some people, I'll come back, hey, this stuff we spoke about 6 months ago. Yeah, we've built this. yeah, I want to check it out, and they check it out and they like it. And I don't know, maybe they install it in
Yeah,
a local host hobby project and send to request,
yeah,
but they're not my customer.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it took some time before
Hmm.
I started to realize, okay, the things that are interesting to the decision makers are not even the same things that are interesting to the engineer, even
Yeah,
though the engineer is the one who would use my product at the end of the day.
yeah.
But
That's true.
yeah, to convince that decision maker who could be the head of engineering, the CTO, whatever, to even like
Mm.
agree, it was
Yeah,
just it's a different things he has to hear. So it
yeah,
takes a bit to learn these things, right?
yeah. That's right. Something I've learned in my recent sales journey, mapping out who like a buyer profile looks like. And then recently on the call, the sales mastermind call you joined the last time, uh, I, on an earlier call, I learned something called a champion. Apparently, it's something salespeople know, right? So on any sales activity or any sales like engagement, there are usually champions, and then there's your buyer, right? So there's the person with the money. In our case, it's like CMOs, VPs of marketing. These are the buyers. And for us, we know the buyer problems. We've already like profiled the buyer. And when we have a certain prospect, we reinforce that profile with certain problems they will have. We have identified, right? So we have a buyer, we know what problems they have, we know what their objectives are for the quarter. So a CMO's objective could be we want to move brand awareness by this percentage, or we want to drive MQLs, right? Marketing qualified leads for the sales team, or we want to help the sales team close X number of deals with content, right? That's something we know the VP of marketing cares about. But the marketing associate, no, maybe they don't care about that. That's their team's, KPI. For them, they want like a better experience so they could create content faster, right?
Yeah,
Or they can publish to multiple channels, or they could create short form videos better. They have more experience problems, right? Those and when we're building, we're solving experience problems. You're listening to users. You want to make their life
exactly.
better, right? But the buyer doesn't care about that. But the champion, who is the marketing associate or like a content writer, that's what they care about. So typically you're working with the champion to sell to the buyer. That's something I learned recently is we don't say, oh, this person isn't my buyer. They're not the one going to pay, but they will help you get to some form of like payment, right?
Yeah,
So we just work closely with them to understand what does the team need, what does the team want. If this is helpful, how can we prepare you to sell this upward into your team? That's something that I've seen, I've tried that has worked. I mean, sometimes depending on if you don't find the right buyer and also their willingness to solve the problem, then they might just like flake, drop off, or ghost you as as usual, right? So yeah,
yeah.
that's something I have recognized.
What you describe is also something I think I didn't really know this champion term, but it's something I've realized also that it doesn't mean the engineer is not helpful at all.
Yeah,
It just means you have to use him differently in some
yeah,
sense. But also, it's not just any engineer. I'm using engineers because those are my customers in some sense.
yeah,
Not just any engineer can even be a champion. It always ends up being like the ones who are, I don't know, younger in the company. They really they don't want to start
yeah,
making any demands from their teams,
yeah.
and it ends up being the people who, they might just be engineers, but they've been in the company long enough, and
Mhm.
they also have like they're responsible for something. For
Yeah,
example, there are people like me when I was at Delivery Hero. So they've built
yeah,
something, things have gone wrong. They've been responsible for when things go wrong,
yeah,
and they want to solve that problem so they can
yeah,
champion for you somehow in the company.
yeah. So we like to think that they feel the pain, and not
Mm.
just that they feel the pain, but they care the most about
Mm.
about fixing it and solving it. So that's great. So currently, how do you drive new users? What's your top, you know, growth channel at the moment?
It has changed a lot. I think this startup thing is just a bunch of experiments.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of experiments. Some experiments give you results very quickly, some very slowly. Some might give you results quickly, but you think the results is you've gotten is the result you want. I'll give you an example. We had a period where we did LinkedIn adverts. We realized LinkedIn adverts was very expensive. The cost per click, and it was really expensive. And you get these leads, but they don't necessarily like. It
Did they
doesn't mean,
convert?
yeah, it doesn't mean that you're gonna convert them. So you just
Yeah.
paid a lot of money for nothing. And we then moved to Reddit. So we ran Reddit adverts for some time. Reddit adverts was nice because we had a lot of signups. So we had a very low cost per sign up.
Okay.
But those signups really converted to paying customers because we have a free tier.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
was, I don't think I ever converted anyone who came into Reddit to paying customer
Yeah.
somehow,
Yeah.
even though there was a lot of them signing up.
Okay.
So that ran for some time. We had learnings. Within each of these campaigns, the learnings, you have to learn how to
Yeah.
create content and the adverts, the images or whatever for that particular platform. So there's
Mm-hmm.
this learning cycle which I had to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at some point, of course, I had to bite the dust and say, okay, Reddit is not working. Then tried
You
Google
tried
Ads.
Twitter. Okay, Google Ads first.
Oh, I tried Twitter. I don't know. Twitter never worked for me. It's just it's just blowing money.
Honestly, I think it's I think it's the worst. Like this is me. I mean, Elon, do not ban me or something, but but I think Twitter for us we tried didn't work. I feel like there's huge negative sentiment around ads on Twitter because you just see a lot of like the bots, the Amanda 2645 that likes your post or like put some crypto ad. So everyone, once you see that ad tag, skip,
Skip.
right? So Twitter never worked for us. We tried LinkedIn, very expensive, also doesn't work.
Same as
Super expensive. Twitter is cheap, right? You get a lot of impressions. Um, didn't work. So ads in general just didn't work for us. Maybe it's because of our kind of product, but we figured something that if Twitter is great for it with impressions, then maybe we should use that more for like brand awareness rather than try to convert. And also, it's cheap, right? Maybe that works, but yeah, I don't have enough
I
money
mean,
to experiment with that.
there are learnings that I'm getting, right? So
Mhm.
as you burn money, when you burn, in my case, APIToolkit is mostly bootstrapped. So when you burn your own money, you have to learn by force.
Yeah,
You can't
true,
just burn. So
true.
I've made some learnings, and which is that. So maybe before the learnings, I think the other platform that we tried ads for is Google. I think I tried. There's this Google Smart Ads or something. That thing just blew
Mhm.
money. It just blew. It was converting, but it was blowing money.
Yeah.
Then I eventually figured out just going for AdWords, and that was the last advert that I ran, and it worked in
Mhm.
the sense that um, I got more people. I got a lot of signups. In fact, a lot of the
Ah,
signups right now came through that, but
okay.
they would not convert quite as much,
Mhm.
But usually, it's good people, so I could like when someone signed up, I could go check them out, search for them on LinkedIn, send them a
Yeah.
DM, and then
Yeah.
get a call, and then that converts. So it's kind of
Okay.
like, I guess, a mix of inbound and outbound somehow.
Yeah.
That worked a bit.
Huh.
But what I stopped the adverts because we have a backlog of these people we're trying to reach out to because of the manual effort. But I realized that the best way to actually, or for us to actually use these adverts is to remarketing. Is that what it's called? Re
Like retargeting.
Retargeting. Sorry, I forgot the term.
Yeah.
So we already have these people, but just show, like, instead of just brand awareness to a lot of new people, use Google AdWords to get new people. Then use
Yeah.
the other advert platforms to just keep showing ourselves to the
Yeah.
same people. And that is where we've kind of settled down,
Okay. Huh.
and code outreach.
That's an interesting thing to think about because I haven't tried retargeting on our end. We do that with social media. So we try to like follow like certain like people, get them into our network or on our radar somehow. And then we, we share content and they see it and we make sure we maintain like consistency with content. And so far it's worked, right? It's reinforced sales and it's also brought us like, new conversations, like fresh conversations. So probably that's something that's worked. So if I get you correctly, AdWords worked, but you stopped. And then went to like retargeting,
Yeah,
right?
even
So
AdWords
currently,
was tough because we had to experiment quite a lot. Each of these, I mean, I say it in one sentence, but it's like 2 months of blown
yeah,
money, 3 months of blown money, and a lot of learning.
yeah,
So you have to try
ah,
different words, do a lot of research, try something,
yeah,
it doesn't work, try.
yeah. So people usually have marketing strategies, right? Would you say you have one now, or it's more like just this experiment you're running and driving new users and trying to get revenue, or is this something your co-founder that you just brought on will take care of?
Yeah, actually, even with my co-founder, we're still using the strategies that I've narrowed down on in the last
Hmm.
year. If you asked me this question 4 months ago, I would tell you we're still running a lot of experiments. Now
Yeah.
we're not running as many experiments anymore because we've narrowed down all these things I'm describing. Right, we've narrowed down on some things
Hmm.
that didn't work very well. We've likely not found the sweet spot for us, and we
Hmm.
likely still need to do quite a bit of experimenting in the future. But
Yeah.
experiments cost money, and we have some things that are at least working into some
Yeah.
extent. I want to just do that for the next few months and get some more paying customers.
Yeah.
So they can,
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah. Good catch. Um, have you tried other forms of marketing? So aside like advertising, have you tried social media content,
Content.
affiliate, you know?
Content is the gift that keeps giving.
Hmm, nice. I mean, I
It's
like to hear that.
it's the gift that keeps giving. And it doesn't seem like it in the beginning. So when I started, I would write these articles, and publish, especially on. I didn't know much about SEO, right? So just consuming content. I use this Neil Patel's Uber Suggest, and we just follow the recommendations that it would give, and did a lot of stuff. Nothing. Basically, there was nothing coming in from that content. So it was really frustrating. But I don't know why I just kept going at it. Obviously the rate of posting articles dropped at different times. But I think we've reached 1 year later, I look at the charts and it's almost exponential in some sense. Obviously the traffic coming from Google is not so much. It's just, I don't know, a couple thousand uh,
Mhm.
uh, uh, organic organic direct clicks
Yeah.
per month. So it's not outrageous, but just seeing that trajectory and
Yeah.
seeing that this is traffic that before we would have to pay Google search for,
Yeah.
and now it comes for free. It's amazing.
Yeah. That's great. So anyone listening out there, you need to invest in content. And I
Just
guess
know
what I also learned here is consistency with creating content. It pays. It keeps giving 6 to 9 months from once you start. That's also
it.
something we've seen is most people that understand the impact of the importance of content marketing for whatever product they have, they've done it before, so they know that the benefits come 9 months to like a year later. I mean, initially you would get that boost on if it's great content, right? But then search picks it up, and if you're great with like some of the SEO tactics, backlinking, and all that stuff, you get really good organic traffic from search. So yeah, have you tried like any other market, TikTok, for instance? I see you create social media like Twitter videos and more demos. But are those like also part of like marketing for you? Have they worked?
Oh yeah, yes. Sometimes I feel bad that I don't do it quite as much. The videos, they work. They work.
Okay.
They
Yeah,
work. Yeah.
that's great to know then that creating those videos work because I see you create them often. I'm building like a SaaS product, so I'm unsure if creating such videos they actually convert and they get visits on or new users even.
When we were just things were just starting to pick up, uh,
Hmm.
we did not have many paying customers. It was really a hassle. It's like I would have to cold outreach a lot of people, get a lot of rejections, etc. One day I did a video, I put it on Twitter, and then someone messages me with a screenshot that, hey, like I tried to I tried to pay and there was extra something cents. So I think we're charging $20 and it was like $20 point something. I didn't even know this. I
Wow, that's
didn't even know this. When
yeah,
you're just starting out and you're like a lot of the yeah. And that happened just after uploading a video on Twitter.
yeah.
And this was a DM on Twitter. So now I think my favorite customers till
Hmm.
today are the people that actually came through my Twitter. The reason is that they are the ones who I think it's just easier for them to give me feedback.
Hmm.
And feedback is the most important thing for any young startup.
Yeah.
It's the most important.
That's great. So Twitter, but then I guess there has to be some sort of like because Twitter art doesn't work. So it has to be some sort of like connection or you know them or you've connected in some way or they follow you,
It
I
has
guess
to
that's
be a
the one
little
that
bit.
works.
It has to be a little bit organic. So
Yeah.
the thing with videos is they're easy to consume.
Hmm.
So when people are scrolling by their feed, I think people are more likely to click play on a video than read some lengthy tweets.
Huh.
They might not really watch all of the video, but they'll just see the first few seconds and then just continue moving if they don't like it.
Yeah. So we
Well,
need to make the first few seconds like
exactly. So that has been my. Of
yeah.
course, it takes effort to do a good video and to do a
Yeah.
good video, but I
Hmm.
wish I make more. I want to make more videos because I
Yeah.
know what I get from them.
Yeah, you should. I mean, you should make more. And anyone else listening out there, you definitely should make more videos, put them on Twitter. Um, but speaking of your audience now, has it been individuals or have you tried to reach out to like enterprise clients? Have you done like some sales outreach to that effect? Or it's been, self-service for now?
Um, I've done all of them. It's not easy too because I think we're both on this call the other day when I asked that question
Yeah.
about trust. Yeah, we are in a space that is very heavily trust centric,
Okay.
and I remember this time last year, so January last year, 1st of January last year, I spent the entire New Year. I was in Rwanda at the time. I spent the entire New Year, Christmas and New Year, implementing support for some things that a German company, like a German enterprise company, wanted.
Hmm.
So I implemented all of this stuff. They told me, we need this. You need to be able to delete all of this data. I implement. We need to be able to add this kind of authorization, something. Implement. We need this. Implement.
Yeah.
They never became customers.
Oh man.
They
What?
never. Weeks, not even weeks, months of work just went away.
Down the drain.
It just went away. I mean, I don't take it as down the drain because it's useful features that other people can eventually benefit from. But
Yeah.
it just shows you that I think after that incident in January, it made me mentally deprioritize enterprise. It's only in the last few months that I've started going after enterprises again. Like
Okay.
by enterprise, I mean, beyond the 10 employees.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Like,
the larger enterprises. Anyway, this company was I can't mention names, but it's a company in the shipping industry here in Germany. And
yeah.
to be honest, Germany has a very strong everything GDPR, all of that stuff. It's very important here.
Yeah. I think whenever I hear GDPR, I think Germany. That's like that's the country that comes to mind. I'm like, it probably was formed somewhere in Berlin.
Exactly. So like this company now, they needed a way to erase. So we have this functionality on APIToolkit now where you can redact fields on the client. At the time, you could only redact on the server. So you could go on the dashboard and configure and say, oh, this field I want it to be redacted. And it just means when the data comes, we redact it. It doesn't get stored. But they were like, yeah, we don't even want it to leave our server in the first place. And so I had to like
Oh,
figure out redacting at the client side. Now every SDK supports that, and I'm very happy
yeah.
with it. But that was from a GDPR perspective for them.
Yeah. It's
And
interesting to see how legalities actually influence product development, even at a startup, right?
exactly. But so in the end, it still didn't work, and I had I had couple other companies with a similar story that were also pretty large.
Yeah.
As I realized it was easier for me to double down on the people that were already using the platform and
Yeah.
appreciating it and
Yeah.
paying for it. So I just started to chase more of those smaller, those
Yeah.
kind of people.
Yeah. That's interesting. So speaking of legalities, right? You're based in Berlin or somewhere in Germany, right?
Yes, in Berlin. Yes.
Yeah. So in Berlin, is the company like domiciled in Berlin or outside? Just thinking
It's a
about like
German company. It's
so it's a
registered.
German company. How easy is it to like set up a company in Germany?
Oof! Are you trying to stir up my PTSD? I'm traumatized, bro.
Wow.
So I think it took me almost 6 months from
What?
the first name search to the day I got my tax ID. And when I talk to my friends about my friends who have like companies in the US or in the UK, they're like, "Bro, I registered my company in one day," and I'm like crying inside.
Wow.
Like, let me
Why
show
does
you
it
how
take you
bad
so
it
long?
is. Let
Yeah.
me show you how bad it is. You do a name set just like in Nigeria, whatever. When this name search is agreed, you have to write this memorandum, the same things as in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But
Like an
then you
MOA.
have to take those documents to a notary in Germany. And in this notary, this lawyer, judge guy, who I don't know what the English equivalent is, sits down and reads all these documents word for word to you
Wow.
before you can now sign and say yes. So
Damn.
you cannot register a company completely online. You have to like find an appointment, wait till the next available appointment, and go to this notary guy. I don't know if he's a
Yeah.
judge or just a lawyer, and then
Yeah.
you have to read it out.
You need to like notarize it and then once that's done, you need to send it in and like maybe submit it and then you wait for it to actually be approved.
The number of like the chamber of commerce, the I don't know, the neighborhood where the company is has to send you a letter and you have to pay something and send. So everything happens via letters, and that adds a
Wow.
lot of time because letters like maybe it takes 5 days, 10 days for you to get the letter. You now fill in and do whatever they want you to do and send it to them. They wait another 5 days, 10 days. So all of this back and forth is just so slow.
Wow.
But in any case, I mean, I'm a resident in Germany, and I figured it was the easiest option.
Yeah. Damn, I feel blessed in Norway now because it took like what? I think a week a week, 2 weeks. Also, because there's like bank involved. You need
Yeah.
like your bank to like set up an account and all that stuff. But it was all like online. You don't have to go anywhere to get it done.
Even just the bank bits here is complicated. The bank has to, I don't know, you give them some money, they have to send a letter that, I don't know, you have the required capital, something, and you need all of it. It's quite a process with the bank. Then you
Yeah,
now have to take those documents that you have the required. You've not opened the account though. They're just saying, oh, we've received money from you. That is the required capital for your
yeah.
business. And you now use this to now register the business. It's only after the business is registered that they now open the account, the bank. So it's just so much
And you
back
use
and
this.
forth.
How much does it cost to register a company in Germany?
So a proper limited liability company in Germany is called a GmbH.
Yeah, yeah,
And you need 25,000 euros of capital. This money is still yours. It's still in the company. It's in your account.
yeah.
It just means you need to have that. But if you don't have up to that 25,000 euros,
Hmm.
you can do something called a UG. So our company is a UG. So you can do this UG where you can just give any amount, 1,000, 5,000, any amount. And that amount will be used as the initial capital. But there's a clause. The clause is that you have to reserve 25% of your profit as a company, either profit or revenue, one of them,
Okay.
until you've saved up the 25,000.
Wow.
So it's like a savings plan towards 25,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So when
Okay,
you have
so
that 25, it automatically becomes a GmbH.
wow. And this is Germany that should be like the largest economies in Europe.
Oh yeah. We always joke that everyone says Germany is this German efficiency. German
Yeah.
efficiency. I don't believe that thing.
German
do, you know,
inefficiencies now.
do you know how doctors communicate in Germany?
How?
So if you go to a doctor, let's say you went to one doctor today and then tomorrow you go to another doctor and that other doctor wants to get your files from this previous doctor, it's by fax.
Wait, fax is still a thing?
Do
Huh?
you know, in my previous job at Delivery Hero,
Yeah.
up until 2018, 2019, we still had systems to accept food delivery orders by fax.
Like fax. As a person, I haven't interacted with fax. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it looks. I don't know. Does it have an interface? Do you write a letter or use like stamp? I don't know what fax looks like.
It's like a telephone, I don't know, extra because it's a phone number. You have like a telephone number, but you have a fax number, and you can send a document to that telephone number, and it's
It
automatically
spits it
printed.
spits like Morse code or what? Like
I don't know. I don't
wow.
know. But it prints out papers. It's like just for documents.
That's intense to get food.
Yes, you could order food by fax and delivery
Yeah,
hero.
I guess we'll all just cook or we'll go lean, lose weight.
I mean, obviously we had the web apps and all of that, but a lot of the
Yeah,
more institutional companies, they don't change very fast in Germany. So
yeah,
they're already used to fax. So like the government, everything is run on fax. So they're not gonna
yeah.
change to email
Wow.
system overnight.
That's now I appreciate like even like the US companies you can set up on like Stripe Atlas and you get like a Delaware C Corp in a month or less.
I mean, we have something like Stripe Atlas. It's called
Mhm.
Firma.pe, which is what I used. But
Mhm.
that does not excuse you from going to a nota and sitting down
Three
there.
months. It's 3 months instead of 6 months.
Exactly.
Wow.
So
Yeah. This is my cue to not try to register a company in Germany then. God, I'm up north. I'll take the code instead of the fax. Yeah. Something I'm curious about. I think it's like probably one of the last things we talk about. Is counting. right? So I know that's like too far away from engineering, right? But when you're building a company, it's something you have to you care about, right? Because accounting is something that I know that comes to bite you later on. If it's not during like acquisitions, or it's when you want to pay your taxes, or you know, maybe you want to like get money, you want to raise money, or maybe you just get audited randomly by the government, right? So how do you handle accounting, and also with a subscription product? I haven't tried that. I know how accounting works with one-off products where you send an invoice, you get payments, but with subscriptions, how do you reconcile all that? Do you need to get an accountant, or how?
I don't even think that I have a friend, Natalie. If she hears this, hello, Natalie. But she runs the Golang EU conferences in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And when I hear her just complain and tell me the pains she's
Yeah.
going through, I just know I don't want that. Because even it's conferences, it's not like a million orders. But when you have 500 people sending you all these small ticket amounts, you have to like account each of them one by one. It's just a pain. So you have to pay a bookkeeper, and in Germany they charge per hour, and it adds up. But you still have to do quite a bit yourself. Um, for me, I just knew I didn't want to go through that stress, so I used the merchant of record. So
Mm-hmm.
right now we use Paddle, although I'm in the process of switching from Paddle to Lemon Squeezy. But they're basically merchant of records in a sense that all our customers are paying to them as a company.
Ah,
Then
okay.
I get one, maybe like I can configure it and get like one payment from them. Let's say
Oh,
in a
so
month.
I've seen folks, especially like indie developers and like indie hackers and solopreneurs, talk about like merchant of record. I haven't like done any research because I use like Stripe. I don't have a subscription product, so I don't know how that works. But mostly folks in the EU have talked about merchant of record. Could you like just like say what that meant again? Like I think people others would be interested in it as well.
So this merchant of record, they have an entity in most countries, right? And so when you pay to them, you're paying to their entity. Or when your customers pay, they're paying to Paddle, for example. And
Hmm.
because they're paying to Paddle's company, Paddle GmbH or whatever, Paddle bears the responsibility of the VAT, the taxes, the accounting to them.
Yeah.
And then, but obviously, I mean, a bit of the money is mine.
Mhm.
So now, Paddle, after paying all those taxes and all those things, they take what is left and put it in a wallet for me. So I see this amount in a wallet. And when I want, I don't know, want the money, instead of having this many payments from
Yeah.
1,000 customers, it can be one payment from Paddle. This can be like a B2B exchange between
Yeah.
my company and Paddle
Yeah.
GmbH or Paddle Limited.
Oh, that does make a whole lot of like a
Mm.
whole lot of sense.
So I don't have to do this VAT. I think the really annoying problem is the VAT reporting, because you need to remit VAT to each customer's country. And like me now, my customers are scattered: US, UK, Nigeria,
Yeah.
uh, Malaysia. So it's like I don't want to start reading Malaysian tax laws.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's that's right. So and then Paddle also handles VAT collection, because here in Norway you only pay VAT, you pay the VAT you collect, right? So if you charge VAT, then you need to remit that VAT to wherever you charge it from, right? And most of our clients are outside Norway, so we don't charge VAT, so we don't pay any VAT, right? So I would assume maybe it's the same. If
I,
I'm not
I,
going to jail.
yeah, I think you should speak with an accountant because no,
Okay.
it's not in the EU.
So Norway is not in the EU, but it's in
Mm.
the EEA. Well, I think I'm within the boundaries of the law. Like,
I
I'm
think
not
it's
going
about. uh, So the thing about not charging VAT in the
to. Mhm.
EU and in Germany, it's capped to a particular revenue.
Okay.
So if your company is making above a particular amount, then
Yeah.
you can no longer opt out of the whole VAT thing.
Wow.
You understand? So it's like an opt-in, opt-out, but if you're above
Yeah.
a particular amount of revenue, you can't opt out. You have to do
Ah,
it.
I see. So yeah, well, that having a merchant of record sounds like sounds like a way to go then for
I
like
mean,
an EU
we pay like
product.
percent in fees. So
Yeah.
sometimes
What?
I look at that percent and I'm like, man, should I go and learn this accounting thing, learn this law?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess once your revenue numbers grow, like once you get like 6, 7 figure monthly revenues, then you would need to have like an in-house accountant that does that, and they're able to like account. It sort of makes sense then.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. So, like, uh, last question I've got is all these things, all this new knowledge, with like from everything outside engineering, right? So from all the like sales stuff, the marketing stuff, I mean, aside sales, I came with experimentation. How else did you learn all these things? Merchant of record, for instance, and all the other stuff.
Whew, if you want to do a startup, and this is advice for everybody, if you are doing any startup, you will learn. Whether you learn by choice or by
Yeah,
force. Because when you get fined by your government for not doing something, you will learn by force.
yeah,
But also out of necessity, APIToolkit is bootstrapped. I can't just blow. I can't do marketing the way most startups do. The whole spray and pray.
yeah,
It doesn't work. In fact, I think the first, oh goodness, you also learn. The first sort of marketing I did was actually cold outreach emails, because I watch all these YouTube videos and they'll say, cold outreach definitely works. You do like this. This is the message that converts. Blah blah blah. I watched all those videos, read all those articles, did the spray and pray. It didn't work. I learned the hard way that spray and pray really doesn't work. You need to sit down, like you said,
yeah,
learn about what an ICP is, your ideal customer profile, figure out what that is, write a message that is actually relevant to them. So before I
yeah,
would just say, give me all the tech companies in the US. Give me all the tech companies in the UK. Not even one I had one guy that literally, I don't remember if I have that message somewhere, but some guy literally told me this message, like a customer that I sent a message on LinkedIn literally told me, man, these messages you are sending are shit. Imagine
yeah.
what could
Sure, right?
happen if you actually sent a reasonable message.
Yeah,
When someone like literally tells you that as a reply to your code
yeah,
outreach,
yeah,
I had to learn the hard way.
yeah. I guess the best form of I mean, I have like very similar experience. The first cold outreaches I did on LinkedIn, I keep saying this over again. It's like I can't forget this guy that says I'm a bot. Like he's like, you're not a real person. I'm like, man, dude, just go to like you can check out my profile or something. You see that I actually share stuff. He's like, no, you're not the real person. And then I'm like trying to do real people stuff. It's like when someone says you're a mad person and you're trying to convince them, no, I'm not crazy. And you're saying it loudly, I'm not crazy. And then you start to sound crazy.
It's not so crazy.
You start to sound crazy, So yeah,
I even had Yeah, I even had like the next first learning was after I had gotten this feedback that, hey, like imagine what would happen if you could send. I said, okay, it's a skill issue. So I had these
yeah,
people reach out to me that, hey, we do prospecting for you, something. One guy, and let me not mention his name. How much? $500 a month. No wahala. At
yeah,
the time, I was still working. I was still in employment, so I had salary money coming in. Not like now that I'm broke. But anyway, I was like, no problem.
yeah.
Bro, I paid this guy for 5 months. One customer we did not convert. $5 every month. Then at some point, I gave up. I said, okay, no, this is not working. Then one guy now reached out to me. Oh no, I saw an advert in what's the name of this website? In, I think, Take Cabal. So it is a company in the UK, and one of
Mhm.
the founders is actually Nigerian. So I reached out. I spoke with the guy. Is not the Nigerian person, but I don't know. I guess maybe his co-founder who is
Mhm.
British. I was like, I told him my experience with this other guy that had paid for like 5 months. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes people don't really know this, blah blah blah. I said, okay, no problem. Let's give it a try. How much? His was more expensive because he said 600 pounds, which is like $700. So it's even more. But these guys are salesmen. They can
Yeah.
convince you. So I was like, now even
Did you
paying more
pay?
than previous guys. Okay, let's give it a try. Maybe it's really a skill issue. 2 months, one conversion I did not see.
Oh man, I,
So
I
yeah,
think at this
customer.
point, I think at this point you need to get customers because you've paid your dues both in cash and otherwise.
So that is what made me stop outsourcing sales and said,
Yeah.
this thing, even if it's slow, I have to
Mhm.
figure it out before I can outsource again. And that's why
Yeah.
I really just brought in a co-founder now, even because I wanted to at least know that, I don't know, something works.
Yeah.
Then it's easier to say, okay, I get an
Mhm.
expert in this particular thing that's working who can like
Yeah.
ramp it up.
Yeah. I was lucky enough when I started. I spoke to a lot of like head of sales, right? I spoke to a number of salespeople to find out what works, like what's worked for them. Because mean, I was like bootstrapped out of the bag, so I don't have money to like throw around. Else, I'm going to be homeless, right? So I had to ask, like, hey, what worked for you? And interestingly, a number of them said, yeah, you just delegate this to an agency that will help you drive leads, right? They will help you drive like close. They'll do everything from lead sourcing to prospecting, outreach, closing, negotiation, all that part, and then you sign. Um, and then I think poverty made me like dial it back. So
Okay.
when I speak to these agencies, it's like I really like they're like at least 10, 15 grand a month you need to like fork out. So I figured I'm not their customer. Right. So I think what I did that worked was I thought of a way to build like a system. So like a basic system of like a cold outreach system that probably maybe doesn't work, doesn't have to generate like clients, but at least I know something that I don't know. So I saw that investment more as like this is for education. I paid like $2,000, right, for a month, and this was for me. This was a degree, a month-long degree in sales, and I was going to use it to learn everything I could, right? And I was an integral part of setting up like a sales campaign, knowing like, so what are some things that could go wrong? How can I mess up my domain? For instance, if I try to blast emails from hackmamba.io, how can I ruin it? Right. So all that stuff I learned within this time. We didn't get
Having
any
all the alias domains, all the different domains that
exactly
I have done all.
buying up similar domains. So all these I learned, and I think that's one of the best things that's happened is I learned this like fundamentals, and then I just took that around with it and got curious, trying to find if someone is screaming too loud on YouTube, I don't listen. It's like they're telling you, hey, here's this trick to get like cold emails to open 70% of the time. Nah.
But just about this, because you said you spoke with these experts uh, yeah, who recommended just getting an agency. I don't
Yeah.
think it's bad advice, but I also
Yeah.
think it's bad advice because I realized for me, it wasn't that these sales guys were bad. I think they
Yeah.
were amazing sales. I mean, they sold that amount of money to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's not you.
So I think they're good. But the challenge is this: as a startup in the beginning, sometimes what you're selling is not even clear to you yourself.
Yeah.
So you don't even know the language that you want to use. You don't even know for this your ICP, what are the actual things that if I say it's gonna hit them.
Yes.
which means you want to speak with these people and sell to the first few and already get an understanding of what is working. An external salesperson who does not have skin in the game will not know the right questions to ask in the
Yeah.
beginning that would help them, craft this messaging.
Yeah.
And I think that was the challenge that I faced.
Yeah. That's true. That's something I did learn as well, is that at the beginning, I mean, I gave up. I was like, okay, I'm going to be a salesperson for the next 1 year. I'm a founder. That's my job now, sales. So I've done like 60, 70% sales, and then the rest has been engineering, management, every other thing. Right. And in this time, I've learned so much, right? From objections to selling the solution the right way, right? So you bring a salesperson, they have like an idea of what the solution looks like, but then they are trying to sell to an expert, like in our case, a content expert. And this person has like very deep questions that only myself as the founder has been a technical writer for years, right? I have like, I know what to say. I can make up stuff on the fly and like sell it on the spot, to get the deal to close. But some other person though, they wouldn't know, like a salesperson, they
But
wouldn't know how to navigate it.
there's this lady I've been listening to, April Dunn. For everyone, go listen to her talks, read her book. Obviously, awesome. She's the best person I've read in the whole topic of marketing. But one of the things is that, like, as you've had those conversations and you've
Yeah,
gotten those questions, you can actually take those questions and create this kind of FAQ that another salesperson can run with.
yeah,
Because after having a lot of calls, usually when I get on a call with someone, I know exactly what questions they're gonna ask me.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like there's almost no question that someone asked me right now that someone else has not asked before.
yeah,
It's funny.
yeah,
Like my co-founder now, she's even doing this, like, because she would like join me on a call, shadow me on a call for on
yeah,
most of the calls in this last month. And she was like, a lot of the questions. It's like,
yeah,
so sometimes someone asks a question, she's like, especially if it's on writing, she'll be like, should I just use the answer we use for this person to answer this? And I'm like,
yeah, yeah. You start to pick up correlations. Yeah, that's definitely I would say 1,000, 1,000,000%. Any founders, young founders out there building, totally, you should be the first person to sell. You probably heard this some other place, but if you haven't, yeah, you should be the first salesperson of whatever product you have. Except you have like top box to pay, like, a sales outfit, like a sales agency that will do everything. And even at that, they need to have some guarantees, right? They need to say, we're going to close this many deals. If we don't, then peace. We call it
I
quits.
got those guarantees. None of them made them. They will always give the guarantee. They'll say,
Okay,
we'll give you
no, no
money back.
guarantee.
Money back.
Yeah,
We don't give you 20 events in your calendar in the first week. The first week
wow,
when
nothing. And then they probably blame your systems or blame something, blame that you don't have a playbook.
exactly.
Yeah,
I remember the first guy. Let me find him. He was like, uh, when I was talking to him that, this is my business, he was like, yeah. He showed me some of his other customers. I was like, yeah, we have these guys who is pretty much exactly like you. And he showed me some company that does this data lake. I was like, similar, whatever sales you're doing for these guys will work. 2 months in, my guy was now telling me, we've not sold any business that is like yours. I'm like, bro, you literally were showing me businesses like mine.
yeah. It's definitely like an very interesting spot to be in. But for anyone out there, I say as a founder, you need to sell extensively. And once you sell, I think you understand, like, you'll be able to call bullshit once someone tries to like sell for you too, which is important. We're pretty much spent on time, but this has been really fun. Is there something you want people to like check out, after the stream? I mean, API Toolkit. If you don't have like link,
Maybe
I'm
I
going to
can
put
do
it.
like my small pitch, APIToolkit pitch.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, man.
Yeah. So I think in the beginning I mentioned how we spend a lot of time on things that don't matter in engineering. So I started to run with that. I started to run with that, and started by analyzing API, this API requests to detect anomalies, find out when things go wrong, etc. But I then realized that by analyzing this request, we've basically built a model of the APIs, and we can do a lot of other things with these models. And this has started to become a few different things. For example, now we're able to generate tests. So a lot of people don't like to write tests. So you can generate this end-to-end API tests for your systems, and then able to generate like Open API, Swagger specifications, and things like that. And so I guess those are the core use cases. So, and I guess one other use case is the Log Explorer, which is a problem that I did not set out to build. But I realize now that I think that is what brings people back to APIToolkit the most, because they want to just query, oh, what is this user doing? What are the requests this user made? And this is useful for customer support to investigate issues, etc. So APIToolkit is now these three things. The anomaly detection, the observability monitoring bits, the quality assurance bits, which is where we validate requests and generate end-to-end tests, and then the insights bits, which is the ability to derive these insights from what your customers are doing, search through what they're doing, and pick into everything. So that's what APIToolkit is. And there's an open source project on GitHub called Test Kits, which we open source as part of our work, and it's this framework for writing end-to-end tests in a file without writing code. So it's basically a DSL for describing the systems, which I think everyone should try out. I think it's the best thing since sliced bread. Don't quote me on that. Anyway, that's my small pitch.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. So go check out APIToolkit if you're listening. Go on GitHub and try out Test Kit and see how it works. If you made it this far, thank you very much for sticking with us on this stream. It's been really fun interacting with us and just hear us, talk about everything outside code and all the business things we have to do. If you could just hit like the subscribe button, I don't know, it's like somewhere down here. I'm not used to this, but hit the subscribe button and the like button so you can see us do this every Wednesday. And the next stream also going to be great. And for now, thank you very much for joining, Anthony. And for the rest of us, let's have a wonderful rest of the day and evening.
So thanks a lot for having me, William. I had quite a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for joining in. Take care.